Fan edits are strange. They're often held in higher esteem than fan fiction, and even the implication of their existence, such as the Snyder Cut of Justice League and Topher Grace's Star Wars, can spur heated debates in the realm of fandom. They're prevalent, with numerous websites dedicated to their promotion, collaboration, and discussion, but they're increasingly hard to classify. Fortunately, an essay by Joshua Will on the matter attempts to clarify things for us. The first of 3 formats he proposes is the reductive fan edit. Reductive fan edits are probably the most common, being used to edit out sources of fan annoyance and produce a tighter, more coherent film, kind of like the meta-narrative of The Princess Bride. Think of the Star Wars prequels' anti-cheese edits that shortened each of the films by around half an hour to minimize fan service and childish humor without losing the plot. In terms of viewing experience, these tend to do a lot but don't change much of the film's message. Stylistic fan edits are more interesting. They often change small details of the film, like color grading and sometimes shot order, and have a bit more to say than reductive edits. Prominent fan edits of this type include the black and white cut of Logan and various attempts to demaster the original Star Wars trilogy by cutting out Lucas's later revisions. Recombinant edits are the most enticing, because they actually incorporate additional elements not present in the original film. Famously, or perhaps infamously, director Steven Soderbergh cut together 2 versions of the Hitchcock classic Psycho, blending the mid-20th century masterpiece with an early 21st attempt at recreating it. The process, viewing, and meaning are all changed drastically. Speaking of Soderbergh, he's actually a notorious fan editor in addition to his established career as a Hollywood director. On his Soder blog, he often details his process and justifies just what changes he makes to a given film. Of these, his most famous by far is an entry titled The Return of W.D. Rijk, in which he talks about performing a mostly reductive edit on Kubrick's seminal 2001: A Space Odyssey. He compares himself to mentally ill schoolteacher Wilhelm de Rijk, who famously slashed up Rembrandt's Night Watch with a knife, resulting in 4 years' worth of restoration efforts. Soderbergh's edit of A Space Odyssey is as fascinating as it is frustrating. He excises over half an hour from the original film, cutting mostly from the film's second act following Dr. Haywood Floyd as he is summoned to the moon to witness the discovery of the second monolith. Admittedly, Kubrick's original is a lengthy exposition dump, spurred on by an audience surrogate, but it's done in a very Kubrickian fashion, rife with subtext and actor subtleties that have been thoroughly examined over the years. Soderbergh does away with all of this, and unfortunately, a lot of the audience's context for the second half of the film, along with various other subtle changes throughout. He inserts images of HAL 9000's eye absolutely everywhere, from the Dawn of Man sequence up through the birth of the Star Child, and in doing so manages to completely re-signify Kubrick's film. To understand how, we're going to have to turn to film theory. Jean-Louis Baudry is credited with introducing the world to the film apparatus theory, which, not unrelated to Althusser's state apparatus theory, deals largely with the making of meaning and ideology of film. Baudry argues that film is inherently ideological because at every stage of its creation it is a further abstraction of an objective truth. But we can look at this another way. Let's simplify filmmaking into 4 steps. First, you have your director and/or writer. They've taken a story down and put it on paper. On the opposite end are the actors, living and breathing and exhibiting some objective truth. The objective truth is made subjective by the camera in the middle, which decides from what angle the truth should be observed, how it should be lit, and other similar aspects. Finally, all of that goes to the editor, who, operating under the director, trims, touches up, and reorganizes the subjective content into a coherent, whole, finalized ideological product for viewers. Baudry goes on to describe the cinema as a means of forcibly projecting ideology onto its viewers, who are more or less incapable of experiencing anything other than the director's ideological product in the theater, and presumes to end the cycle there. With the rise of easily accessible editing software, that cycle is interrupted. All of a sudden, a new creator can pick up that final product and toss it back into the meaning-making machine for a secondary round of edits. To further explain, let's revisit Kubrick and Soderbergh's 2001. Though intentionally nebulous and awfully subjective, Kubrick's 2001 does impart some meaning to its viewers. Taken in tandem with Arthur C. Clarke's novel, which was written concurrently with the film, a message about evolution arises. Kubrick's film is not quite a plodding overview of the human race for some thousands of years, but rather a recurring cycle of infancies. The underdeveloped apes learn how to use tools and progress forward. The human race develops space travel and reverts to a soft state of infancy, being cared for by robotic servants. Finally, the human race sheds its limited perceptions of space and time, and Dave Bowman is reborn as the Star Child. These sequences are the landmarks of Kubrick's film. In editing Kubrick, Soderbergh manages to inject his own alternative meaning into the film. Soderbergh opts to insert HAL 9000's eye absolutely everywhere, implying a sense of omnipresence to the character, and a meaning greater than Kubrick or Clarke ever implied. He's placed at the birth of the universe, the dawn of man, the discovery of the monolith, throughout the journey to Jupiter, and at the birth of the Star Child. Suddenly, the implication about evolution is no longer a series of infantilizations, but a single trajectory, guided either by HAL 9000 or some sentient cosmic force using him as its avatar. And all of this is accomplished without adding a second of new footage. Where Soderbergh's edit should be wholly reductive and should only be able to reinforce Kubrick's argument, it manages to significantly change its meaning. The Return of W.D. Rijk is a film that has been filtered through two sets of ideologies, first being produced through the eyes of Kubrick and later refiltered through Soderbergh's. If nothing else, it serves as a fascinating example of the power that fan edits possess.